Have you ever felt lost, even after doing your best to live well and stay true to yourself? Do you ever pause and ask, who am I in this life? What does it all really mean? I've felt that too. And so did Siddhartha, a man who once had everything, yet found himself haunted by questions that changed the course of his life. Those questions didn't break him. They became the spark for a journey so raw and real, it transformed him from the inside out. Siddhartha isn't just a book. It's a spiritual journey, a mirror reflecting the deepest longings hidden in all of us. It has stirred millions of hearts, from Paulo Coelho, author of The Alchemist, who said Siddhartha was the first fire to ignite his creativity, to Carl Jung, the father of analytical psychology, who called it a beacon guiding through life's storms. Written by Hermann Hesse in 1919, this book is more than a story. It's a whisper from the universe, gently leading us through pain, through loss, all the way to awakening. But behind those pages lies one of the darkest chapters in Hesse's life. He lost his father. His son passed away. His wife suffered a mental breakdown. His marriage collapsed. And society rejected him for speaking out against war during World War I. Crushed by grief, he fell into depression. So deep he stood on the edge of ending it all. And yet, from that very edge, he wrote a book that helped millions keep going. Like a fragile spark rising from ashes, Siddhartha carried the warmth of hope and the light of healing, especially for those who felt lost, just like he once did. From that deep sorrow, a masterpiece was born. A work that reminds us, even in our darkest moments, we can still find our way back to who we truly are. This wasn't just fiction. It was Hesse's redemption. The young man in search of meaning wasn't just a character, it was Hesse himself, a broken soul, still longing for light. Many believe Siddhartha is a story about the Buddha, since Siddhartha was the birth name of Gautama Buddha, also known in the East as Shakyamuni. But this is not a religious story. It's a spiritual journey, one that reaches beyond belief or culture. It's a path where each of us, whether from East or West, can see parts of ourselves reflected. Not the polished parts, the questioning parts, the restless ones that need more than someone else's answers. Siddhartha walks away from doctrine and dogma. He follows not the world's voice, but his own. And it all begins with just one bold decision: to leave everything behind and search for his real self. By the end of this video, you'll see, sometimes, just one moment of looking inward is enough to set you free. Let's take that first step together. They say some people are born already standing at the finish line, at a place millions of others spend their entire lives striving to reach. Siddhartha, the protagonist of the novel that bears his name, was one of them. Born into a noble Brahmin family in ancient India, he had everything: status, knowledge, reputation, and the admiration of thousands. He had it all: wisdom, good looks, moral integrity, honor, a life that appeared perfect, complete. And yet, hidden beneath that dazzling light was a nameless emptiness, a powerful thirst that nothing in the world could quench. Siddhartha was suffering, because even though he lived among the sacred rituals and ancient teachings of the Brahmins, the path believed to lead to Atman, the eternal soul, he still could not touch the divine essence. Atman, a core concept in Indian philosophy, means the true self, the eternal spirit. But Siddhartha's soul remained restless and confused, never once reaching that sacred state. In the very first chapter of the novel, Hesse writes, he had begun to suspect that his father's wisdom and his teacher's teachings would not bring him happiness, would not bring him peace, would not satisfy him. So, in his search for answers, Siddhartha made a bold decision. He would give up everything and set out on a journey to seek the truth. Alongside his dearest friend Govinda, he left his family behind to follow the Samanas, wandering ascetics who practiced extreme self-denial and renunciation. Siddhartha went hungry. He endured the cold. He bore pain. He subjected his body to every form of physical torment. But after 3 long years, he came to a painful realization. He had not come any closer to awakening. All those trials, they were just another way of running from reality. Not liberation, just another form of escape. Even when he encountered the Buddha himself, the one who had reached that eternal self thousands of disciples longed for, Siddhartha still felt it wasn't enough. His friend Govinda chose to follow that path, but Siddhartha did not. He bowed to the Buddha with deep, solemn reverence, his head lowered not in doubt, but in profound respect, because he had seen a truth that few dare to accept. Wisdom cannot be taught, it must be lived. No one can give you enlightenment. You must walk through the darkness of your own soul to touch it. Have you ever asked yourself whether what others teach you is truly the answer for you? Hermann Hesse wrote, "Wisdom cannot be passed on. Wisdom which a wise man tries to pass on to someone always sounds like foolishness. Knowledge can be communicated, but not wisdom." That's why Siddhartha chose to walk alone. He understood no path, no matter how sacred, can replace the truth gained through your own experience. That moment marked a profound turning point in his journey, and it stands as a powerful mirror for us, even today. In modern life, we often live like Govinda, easily swept up in the crowd, following what's called right. Chasing accepted doctrines and inherited ideals, while losing touch with what we truly feel inside. We read and hear countless philosophies, but we rarely allow ourselves to actually live them. Rarely dare to ask, who am I, really? Am I truly living my own life? In the book, Hesse paints a striking image. Most people, Kamala, are like a falling leaf, tossed and turned by the wind, spinning through the air, and landing wherever it falls. But a few are like stars. They follow a fixed course. No wind can make them deviate. So, which one are you? Are you the drifting leaf, or the star that follows its own orbit? The difference comes down to this: are you brave enough to truly see yourself? But forgetting, for us humans, it always comes quietly. It creeps in unnoticed, especially when we get swept up in the madness of life. And slowly, Siddhartha's soul began to lose its way. He lost control. No longer able to hold himself back, he gave in completely to pleasure, the laziness of comfort, the thirst for more, the urge to possess, and the feeling of never having enough. All of it began to drown him. He kept chasing thrills, trying to escape the dullness of daily life with distractions and desires. He gambled. He craved more and more, and he no longer gave like he used to. Once compassionate toward beggars, now he barely looked at them. Because if you never learn to look within, you'll end up spending your entire life in someone else's body, chasing someone else's ideals, existing, but never really living. Looking within is no easy path. It hurts. It confuses you. It tears you apart. It forces you to confront the emptiness, the fear, and the beliefs you've clung to your entire life. But within that disorientation may lie the very first seed of awakening. Siddhartha let go of every belief system he once held, not because he hated them, but because he knew, if you want to find the real answer, you can't just study someone else's truth. You have to live it with your own heart. Transformation doesn't begin in the light. It begins in the dark, when you finally dare to look inside and admit, I don't really know myself. And only then does the real journey begin. So today, give yourself just one moment. Take a deep breath. Look inward, because sometimes, with just one honest look at yourself, you might discover a freedom you've never known. Have you ever lived a life that made you wonder if you even recognized who you were anymore? What happens when you have it all? Money, love, pleasure, but still want to end it all? This isn't a hypothetical. It's exactly what Siddhartha went through. After parting ways with Govinda and the Buddha, Siddhartha began a new chapter of his journey, one that led him straight into the everyday world. He began to live as an ordinary man, to fall in love, to feel desire, to chase after wealth and pleasure like everyone else. He learned about love and closeness from Kamala, a courtesan. He learned how to make money from Kamaswami, a wealthy merchant. At first, he kept his distance. To him, it was all just a game, something he was playing, not becoming. But human forgetfulness, it doesn't come with a warning. It slips in quietly, especially when our senses are tricked by the chaos of reality. Siddhartha's soul began to drift. He lost control. He could no longer hold himself back, and so he gave in completely to pleasure. The laziness of comfort, the hunger for more, the urge to possess, the never-ending chase for enough. Little by little, they wore him down until they swallowed him whole. He kept chasing stimulation. He kept striving for more. He threw himself into fantasy, into longing, just to make his dull life feel a little less empty. He gambled, and unlike before, he no longer cared to give, no longer felt compassion for the poor. The man who once bowed to beggars with kindness now looked past them without a thought. Someone once said, "Human desire is like toothpaste. Once it's been squeezed out, it's nearly impossible to put it back in." And you can see it when desire grows too large, too loud, too uncontrollable. It makes people lose themselves. Even Siddhartha, the man who once ran away from craving and temptation, eventually became the very person he used to despise. He had lost himself, and then one day, when he hit rock bottom, drained, weary, worn out, he walked to the river with a single intention: to end everything. Thankfully, just as his foot touched the water, a voice called out from deep within. Not someone else's voice. It was his own soul. And in that moment, Siddhartha awakened. I had to experience greed. I had to chase wealth. I had to fall into despair and learn how to overcome them. His journey had led him through darkness, but it was that very pain that became the first door to awakening. As Hermann Hesse wrote, pain was necessary to go through to understand what joy truly means. We often think wisdom comes from knowledge, but for Siddhartha, it only came when he had reached the edge of exhaustion, confusion, and despair. That's when he realized no experience is meaningless. Every mistake, every wrong turn, every moment of being lost is part of the journey back to your true self. As Thich Nhat Hanh once wrote, no pain is ever wasted. No experience is ever truly lost. Every step, even the wrong ones, is part of the path. In this life, and in the one ahead, even the smallest steps we take carry meaning. No effort is ever wasted. For Siddhartha, every mistake, even the bitter ones, brought him one step closer to awakening. And that's how life often works. If you've never lived it, you'll never truly understand. People say all the time, "I've read all the books. I've studied all the teachings, so why hasn't my life changed?" It's because truth isn't something you just hear. It has to be lived, felt, faced. Wealth can be earned, knowledge can be taught, but experience? That can't be passed on. You have to go out and find it for yourself. Like one writer said, life is a practice ground. You can master all the techniques, learn all the theories, but if you never step into real life, it's all just ink on paper. No rain, no harvest. If you've never been tested in the real world, how could you possibly touch real growth or transformation? Like Forrest Gump once said in that famous scene, life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get, but you only find out when you're brave enough to take a bite. So go, live, experience. A human being is the sum of every life they've lived. I am every person I've ever met, every feeling I've ever known. And I am me, right here, right now. Without experience, there is no understanding. Life is a journey of experience, and the world we live in is the best school we'll ever have. If today you feel overwhelmed, caught in the rush of modern life, maybe it's time to pause and ask yourself, what do I truly want from this world? No one else can answer that for you. But if you're brave enough to ask the question, then maybe, just maybe, you've already begun walking your own path. Have you ever tried desperately to hold on to someone, only to realize that love alone isn't enough to make them stay? Or stood helplessly, watching your own child grow distant from you, even when you've given them all the love you have? After awakening, Siddhartha wandered along the riverbank, and there, he met a humble ferryman. He decided to stay and learn how to row the boat. The ferryman was like a quiet sage, and he told Siddhartha something profound. The river knows everything. You can learn all things from the river. So Siddhartha often sat by the water, letting go of the tangled thoughts in his mind and simply listening to the sound of the flowing current. Until one fateful day, a weary woman arrived, asking to cross the river, and just like that, the calm waters began to stir again. That woman was Kamala, Siddhartha's former lover. After Siddhartha had left her long ago, she had discovered she was pregnant with his child. She gave birth to their son, left behind her old life, and devoted herself fully to the spiritual path. This time, she was traveling on a pilgrimage with their son, never imagining fate would bring her face to face with Siddhartha again. But before they could even exchange a few words, Kamala was bitten by a venomous snake. As she lay dying, she struggled to place the boy in Siddhartha's care, and then she passed away. Siddhartha watched her face fade, and the image of her youthful beauty returned to him. In that moment, he felt just how quickly everything in life can fade. The arrival of his son awakened a new kind of love in Siddhartha, a love he had never known before. He tried with all his heart to care for the boy, to earn the trust and affection of this child. But the boy, faced with a stranger he had never known, and a life of poverty he never asked for, resisted with all his might. He was cold, he was lazy, he was distant, and at one point, he even said, "I'd rather become a murderer and go to hell than live with this man who calls himself my father." The boy wanted to leave. The ferryman, with quiet compassion, told Siddhartha, "Everyone must walk through life on their own. Even our children have their own paths to follow." But Siddhartha couldn't accept that. He was overwhelmed with worry. He tried to hold on. He wanted to protect his son from the pain of the world, even if it meant keeping him close against his will. One morning, after a fierce struggle, the child slipped away. Siddhartha, heartbroken, tried to chase after his son. But when he reached the edge of the forest, he suddenly stopped. He remembered himself years ago, when he had once forced his own father to let him go in search of his own path. And in that moment, he understood. Life moves in cycles. Every pain we fail to redeem returns to teach us how to accept. Overwhelmed, Siddhartha returned to the river and listened to the stream of insight rushing day and night. In the past, he had tried to separate each sound from the water, the laughter of the wise, the screams of the angry, the weeping of the longing, the groans of the dying. 1,000 voices stirred the mind, one louder than the next. But now, he no longer chased one voice, but listened to them all together. And in doing so, he realized all the joy, the pain, the laughter, the sorrow, they weren't separate at all. They became one, merged together. Life is a current. The more you resist, the more you drown. So Siddhartha stopped resisting. He saw clearly. As long as he held on to his ego, his need to control and expect, he would never find peace. He eventually came to understand, after everything, his son's rebellion, his escape, and his choice, as nothing more than a river flowing. A river filled with 1,000 voices, accepting, forgiving, adapting to every flaw it meets. True awakening doesn't come from peace and order. It happens right in the heart of life's chaos. So let things unfold, naturally, as they're meant to. Everyone in this world is like a flower, and sooner or later, each one is carried off by the wind, in a direction only they can follow. Each person walks a path only they can walk. When someone leaves, don't try to hold them back. When someone comes, don't cling too tightly. Live with a calm and awakened heart. Let your resistance turn into willingness. Let misfortune turn into peace. Let your emptiness become your everything. And deep within you, let go of every expectation, every need to control. A river is never the same, and yet it never changes. In every moment, it flows differently, but in every moment, it remains itself. That is also the nature of being human, a constant stream between two selves, the ever-changing individual self and the steady, eternal self. This very nature of the river reflects the essence of the two selves within each of us, the personal self, the one we think about, act from, and live with every day, and the eternal self, the quiet presence that's always there, unshaken. We call it unchanging because the eternal self remains the same, and we call it ever-changing because the individual self is always shifting, always evolving. As Hermann Hesse once wrote, a person only exists by changing, and only by staying in motion can they truly be alive. So then, what is change, and what is constant? The moment is eternal, and time is where change and stillness meet. When one no longer perceives the passing of time on a deep, spiritual level, they don't just merge their two selves. They also begin to see no separation between anything at all. In that state, every moment, every world, every now becomes a single, unified whole. In the end, maybe, there's nothing that needs fixing, no one we need to become. There is simply a life to live, a moment to embrace, and a world, not perfect, but complete. To close this video, I want to leave you with a passage from the book itself. I no longer compare this world to the perfect one I once dreamed of. I accept this world, love it, and belong to it. Thank you so much for listening. If this video spoke to you, please share it with someone who might need it. And don't forget, you, yourself, should come back to this timeless novel. Because at every stage of life, each reading will give you something new. I wish for all of us awakening, wholeness, and a life lived fully. And finally, please support Minera Mind by clicking like, hitting subscribe, and turning on the notification bell to catch our latest videos every week. Thank you, and see you in the next one.